Let's start with my favorite frenemesis, Draymond Green. Actually, I used to be the biggest Draymond Green fan and now I'm not. But the point is, what I may or may not feel has no relevance. These are just based in facts. Draymond Green is one of the greatest defenders in NBA history. Draymond Green is a 4-time NBA champion. Draymond Green played his way from a second-round draft pick to being an invaluable piece on a dynasty, not just a championship team. But also, Draymond Green has called Kevin Durant a bitch, punched Jordan Poole, kicked multiple players between the legs.
How much did our argument against the Clippers drive you to ultimate?
Punched Yusuf Nurkic, put Rudy Gobert in a chokehold, stomped on Sabonis. Oh my god, I'm running out of breath. And countless other things. And here's the best part. Draymond Green has actually not faced any real punishment. That's what makes it even worse and what makes this go from just another hateable dude to one of the worst people around. Imagine a guy playing victim the day after punching a guy in the face, being like, oh, they're trying to tear me down because of my skin color. Bro, that is nuclear level, Hall of Fame level copium. And here's the thing. The minute Draymond Green retires, 5 years from that date, as in the minute he's eligible, he's making the Hall of Fame. That's why the Warriors actually stuck with him despite every attempt to destroy their franchise. Latrell Sprewell. And he was one of the best players in that Knicks dream finals run. He was also the third cog in the Kevin Garnett, Sam Cassell trio in Minnesota when they went to a Western Conference Finals. Latrell Sprewell is that dude. But also, Latrell Sprewell had a massive case of main character syndrome, and unfortunately, he thought he was just so much better than he was. And here's the truth. Even if he was as good as he thought, he wasn't going to get away with what he did.
Latrell Sprewell, PJ Carlesimo altercation. I had no idea that you was on that team. You was back playing your hometown on the Warriors at the time. What led to the chokehold Sprewell put on Carlesimo? And was there a buildup that y'all saw like?
The most famous thing he was known for was choking his coach PJ Carlesimo during a practice. Literally actually going up to his coach, a guy who is like a foot shorter and not a professional athlete, actually choked him out during a practice. And Sprewell was known for these extraordinary bouts of anger. And again though, he had such a long NBA career because he was that damn good. The second craziest thing he's known for is saying, upon receiving $20 million a year contract, saying that it wasn't enough to feed his children. Those dudes. And speaking of being kicked out the door the minute you lost any type of value, how could this list be without Chris Paul, who the LA Clippers just cut in the middle of the night? No warning, no grace period, just we're done. And here's the problem. Chris Paul, even at his advanced age, is one of the better point guards in the league. But if you're talking about prime Chris Paul, this dude is historically great. There's a reason they call him point guard. And let's be honest, again, just like Draymond Green, the minute Chris Paul is eligible for Hall of Fame, he'll get there. He's gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Some people think he's the most efficient point guard in NBA history. And there are quite a few seasons that might back that claim up. But again, unfortunately, what's even more prevalent about Chris Paul is how big an asshole he is. And that's a point proven by every single stop that he's been on. Imagine a guy who has won as much as Chris Paul has. Yes, he hasn't won an NBA title, but he takes every single team to the playoffs. And a lot of times past the first round, which unfortunately in NBA history isn't something people value a lot. But in reality, it's pretty freaking special. And again, if any of you guys are having misgivings about my points of view, try to understand. I hate Chris Paul, and I am giving him credit. I absolutely detest Draymond Green, but here I am saying he's a Hall of Fame caliber player. These are not based in stupid things like feelings. These are facts. And guess what? Chris Paul wore out his welcome in the LA Clippers second stint so fast his own head spun. And they weren't going to put up with him. Why? Because he's no longer point guard. And if you're not bringing historically great efficiency, people don't want to hang out with you. People don't want you on their team. But that shows how toxic can a guy be. Other player teams couldn't wait to get rid of the moment they lost just a little bit of productivity. Dennis freaking Rodman. Now I need to be clear. Dennis Rodman is not an asshole and toxic in the same way as Draymond Green and Chris Paul and Sprewell. Not at all. I would say Dennis Rodman is much more misunderstood and unpredictable. But unfortunately, some of those unpredictabilities are unforgivable, and they were to the detriment of himself, his team, and everyone else around him. For example, during a Bulls title run, asking to go to Vegas. Like literally in between games, needing Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson to come find him and bring him out. Imagine dealing with that on a day-to-day basis. Or what about the random times in Chicago where he'd lash out at a photographer, lash out at somebody else, late for partying, drugs. But then somehow when he'd get on the court, he'd be the best defender and best rebounder out there. He was absolutely an epitome of one of these players because you had to put up with him. He was just that damn good. You had to endure his antics, and that's exactly what Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan said in The Last Dance. Yeah, he's annoying. Yeah, he's tough to be around. But he's just that damn good. And the truth about Dennis Rodman is when he found a situation where he was understood, he actually was a great representative of both the team and the NBA. It was more when things were getting chaotic or uncertain that then he would lash out and sort of cope in his way, which is quite different from the people on this list. But at the same time though, when you constantly prioritize yourself and you're partying and not putting the team first, you wear out your welcome. And that's what happened, especially in San Antonio, but also at the Lakers in the back end of his career. But in actuality, if you think any of these players were terrible people, which they were in a lot of ways, but none of them compares to Dennis Rodman's main defensive assignment, the mailman Karl Malone. Karl Malone is at the top of this list because just as elite of a basketball player that he was, which he was like the third highest points getter without shooting threes. So think about how great he was as a power forward. But when you hear about what he did, you realize no amount of talent can make up for what a piece of crap you are. When Karl Malone was 20 and still in college, he impregnated a 13-year-old girl. First of all, he was not charged with anything. Second of all, instead of taking any accountability, not only did Karl Malone disavow her, he then denied paternity of her son as well, refusing to pay child support despite having 5 other children as well. Imagine doing that. Not only did you have relations with a minor, so you are a PDF file, but on top of that, when a mistake happens, you take zero accountability. And here's the icing on the already shit cake. When Karl Malone's disavowed son became older and wanted to be in contact with him, Karl Malone then said it was too late for him to be a father. And oh ho hum, this son actually went on to play in the NFL. His name is Demetrius Bell. And even though since there might have been some reconciliation, that is significantly and only due to the good graces and good nature of his children. Because Karl Malone doesn't deserve an inch of good grace. And again, that is not my feeling, that is pure fact.